Today I'm going to show you how to take a couple of simple themes, which will be derived from Barry Harris's approach to chromatic melody and the chromatic scale. So if you don't already know the Barry Harris chromatic scale, you're going to need to know that for this lesson, otherwise it's not going to make any sense. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to my lesson where I explain that in the description of this video, and then you can go check that out and then come back to this lesson. So in the book that I work out of a lot of the times in these videos, this is it, Chromatic Approach to Melodic Development. The whole point of the book is I took Barry Harris's chromatic scale and did an exhaustive study on all kinds of themes that you can get and how to develop those themes. Today we're going to apply it to jazz. So if you have the book, this is a kind of a supplemental video that goes along with the book. And if you don't have the book, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the material here today anyway. And on my Patreon, I upload PDFs and samples from the book and things like that to go along with these YouTube lessons. So if you're interested in the book, I'll leave a link in the description. So the first thing I'm going to show you today and that we're going to work on is an exercise for connecting thirds. But instead of it just being a boring pattern, standard pattern type exercise, we're going to actually apply it to some harmony and some moving chord changes. So the harmony we're going to use is the changes for Autumn Leaves in G major or E minor, however you want to look at it. So I'm going to just connect thirds ascending, and I'm going to go through the changes connecting thirds ascending. And it's just this one idea, but I'm going to hang it on different chord tones of all of the different chords. So on the A minor 7, I'm going to connect thirds starting on the root. On the D7, I'm going to connect thirds starting on the third. On the G7, I'm going to connect thirds starting on the 5th. On the C major 7, I'm going to connect thirds starting from the 7th. On the F sharp minor 7 flat 5, I'm going to connect the thirds starting on the 9th. And on the B 7 flat 13, I'm going to connect thirds starting on the sharp 11 of that chord. And then on the E minor 7, I'm going to connect thirds starting on the 13th. So root 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 of different chords. This demonstrates how you can use this one idea on, you can hang it on any degree of any chord anytime you want. So here's what that looks like. Starting on the root of A minor 7, A is connecting to C. Starting on the third of D7, that F sharp, the third, is connecting to a third away. On the G major 7, I'm going to connect the 5th to the 7th of that chord. Then on the C major 7, I'm going to start on the 7th and connect it up to the 9th. On the F sharp minor 7 flat 5, I'm going to start on the 9th and connect it to the 11th. On the B7 flat 13, I'm going to start on the sharp 11 and connect to the 7th. And then on the E minor 7, I'm going to start on the flat 13 and connect to the root. So you can see how you can take this one idea and you can hang it anywhere you want. So you don't have to hang it on the root. You can hang it on the root 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, or 13, not only of one chord in particular, but of any chord you want. So here's an example of me demonstrating that with a backing track so you can actually hear it against the actual tune. And if you want a backing track for this, I'll upload it to Patreon and you can get a backing track so that you can practice it at home with hanging it on different chord tones and things like that and developing this idea. So if I can connect thirds ascending, I can connect thirds descending also. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to connect thirds descending starting on the root of A, the third of D, the 5th of G, the 7th of C major, and the same thing that I did, but just in reverse order, connecting thirds downwards. So let's start on the root of A and descend connecting thirds. The root going down to the 6th. Of A. Now I'm going to start on the third of D7. Well, I'll do it up here. Now the 5th of G. Now starting on the 7th of C. Now on the 9th of F sharp minor 7 flat 5. It connects to the 7th. Now on the sharp 11th of F7 flat 13. And now from the 13th of E minor 7, which goes down to its 11th. So here's a demonstration of me descending through the changes. The third example of how you can develop this is I'm going to add an arpeggio to the mix. So now I'm going to ascend a third, and then I'm going to ascend a chord. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it this time. I'm just going to do it on the roots of chords because now the melody's starting to get busier. So if I ascend a third and ascend a chord, starting on A minor, starting on the root, that connects my third, A to C. And now I'm going to ascend. Just up in thirds, up a chord. Because I'm such a stickler for target tones and forward momentum and trying to get someplace, I'm going to resolve it to a chord tone on that D7. So I'm going to resolve it on the 7th of D7. The C. So now the whole thing is... Because I'm trying to get somewhere. I'm trying to get from A minor to D, and I'm landing on D on the downbeat, and in this case on the flat 7. Then I'm going to start the routine again. So what I'm going to do, start on G. Where do I want to go? I want to resolve to a C tone from the C chord. So I'm going to go down a step. So connecting thirds, G, starting on the root of G to connect you to B, and on the B, going up in thirds, up a chord, so up a third, up a chord, and then resolve to the downbeat on the C chord tone, which is going to, in this case, it's the 5th, so I'll go to G, but you can go to any chord tone you want. So maybe I'll go to the 3rd of C, which is E. Or maybe I'll go to the root. So you can connect it to wherever you want. So now we got... So on the F sharp minor 7 flat 5, I'm going to connect the root to the 3rd, go up a chord, in this case to the natural 9th, so that is chromatic. It is not out of a G major scale. That's out of a melodic minor scale in this case, but I wouldn't worry about that right now. You can, if you want to, you can just use the G major scale for this and hang an idea on a different chord tone for now if you're new to harmony and scale sources and all that stuff. But here it is. I'm resolving to I'm going to the natural 9th, which will resolve to the flat 7 of that B7 altered, and then it takes us to E minor 7. So here's an example of that with the actual soundtrack. So here's the last idea that I'm going to get into. The first thing I covered is just connecting thirds ascending. Then I covered connecting thirds descending. Then I covered connecting thirds ascending and then adding in a chord. So up a third, up a chord. Now here's what you can do with inversions. And this idea of connecting thirds and throwing in an arpeggio can now blow up even more. One thing, and I'm just going to demonstrate this on A minor because we'll be here all day if I do it all over the place. So the first thing is, obviously, up a third, up a chord. That starts on A, the root of A minor 7. Sorry. That's up a third, up a chord. But now I can invert this idea, and I can invert it. I can have 8 different variations of this idea. So the first variation of up a third, up a chord is up a third, down a chord. So let's go up a third, A to C, and now descend down a chord.